How good is this weekend going to be?
As good as it gets, really.
Northampton, on a good day, with all things going right at their best, could exploit some of those elbows.
Great opportunity for someone like Dingwall, though. He's the best line player in England.
It would be an absolute disaster for Leinster if they lose that game in the semi-final, at home, in Croke Park, everything that comes with that.
Quins in their head will be saying, let's score 50 points. They will go from the gun.
The Toulouse pack is much bigger than the Bordeaux pack. They are absolute freaks of nature.
I don't see both semi-finals being a blowout. It's amazing what happens in semi-finals.
Hello, Dream Team. Welcome along to this week's episode of The Good, The Bad and The Rugby in partnership with our very good friends at Continental Tyres. Hope you're well. And as Good, Bad and Rugby, we always like to try and keep you guessing. And this week's show, I think, is the latest in a bit of a yo-yoing series. We had Apollo the Gladiator a few weeks ago. We had Guscott and Carling. We had Steve Borthwick. And last week we had, I don't know what it was really, the millennials of Hask, Johnny May and Ellis Genge. I just wanted to quickly pick up one piece of feedback, which was left by Luke Thomas on the YouTube channel. It said, this is basically mum and dad have gone away and have left Big Brother in charge. Unreal dynamic. It was absolute chaos. If you haven't listened to it, and I can't imagine the three of you have spent a lot of time listening to last week's pod. If you haven't listened to it, please do. But this week, Gen X, thankfully, is very much back in the building, and we have got a Champions Cup, an Investec Champions Cup special for you with the three wise men. I'm not sure you could find much more rugby IP, actually, in one studio. Ben Kayser, Shane Horgan and Will Greenwood. With how many European titles between you?
I got none. So
Well, you got a European title, you did.
yeah, look, I'm not delusional. It's not the real one.
Right, okay. Well, you won with Claremont in the Challenge Cup.
Immediately undermining the Challenge Cup.
Lovely to have the sponsors of those tournaments with us.
No, but look,
We won a couple of the Challenge
You're not
Cups.
doing the lunch pre-match. That's God. That's
Austin
God.
called it the Mickey Mouse Cup. In those days.
Yeah, you won two
Two of those,
Mickey Mouse Cups.
Agen, Narbonne and Clermont.
And Claremont. And you're the big boy in the room. Great days in blue.
Oh, good days.
How many losing finals are?
Do you want to go through that as well?
Well, I only had one. And
You had one. You bought show and tell in as well.
I did.
Tell
I went to
the
my
nice
little,
people
I went to my
what you
little kits. I don't have many shirts. But in the garage, I thought there was something when the guys rang me up and said, "Do you fancy doing a sort of European special?" I thought, I think I've got the shirt I swapped with David Vondity.
Yeah.
Brive, 97, crushed Leicester. We had a good side as well, Leicester. We put 50 on Toulouse in the semi. Castinier, Dantamak, all that. So we rolled into Cardiff going, here we go. Yeah. Who are these lads from Brive? They had a Polish geezer.
It was like Ireland a couple of weeks ago in Twickenham, wasn't it?
Who's this Polish geezer? Gregory Kakala. How good can he get? Oh my God, he was an absolute monster. And their back line had Carbonneau scrapping away at 9. Damien Penaud's dad, Alan, at 10. Christophe Lamez on the architect of the 99 comeback against New Zealand in the centre with Vondity. Always forget one wing, Cara and VR. And they absolutely took us to the cleaners.
Yeah.
Took us to the cleaners. By the way, how big's the shirt?
Well, you tell us. I mean, you could fit the entire Greenwood family into that. Still have room for a parachute too.
I was showing it to my youngest last night. And he's reasonable size. He's only 15, but he's literally could be a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
Extraordinary size, and weighing 4.5 kilos as well. I mean, if it was raining, that's 10 kegs by half time.
What was funny enough, that game in many ways was because obviously Toulouse had beaten Cardiff the year before in Cardiff, but almost that final that you've just referenced was the one that really began to capture the imagination for exactly the reason you've said, which was suddenly it became this kind of tournament where teams were arriving who you didn't really know. And yet they were lifting the pot. Do you remember it? Do you remember it being a big day, a big game, a big occasion?
The whole of I remember I got 3 points driving through a little village called Kirby Muxlow. I lived with Austin at the time, and driving back from training at Oval Park, I got done for 36 in a 30. Pulled over, speed gun. Policeman pulls me over. Clocks. Oh, so anyway, gives me the ticket, and I swear to you, at the end he goes, "I don't suppose there's a chance of a couple of tickets on Saturday, is there?" And I was like, well, you could have.
There was.
There was.
Yeah.
But even worse, right? Even worse.
was.
The following week, I bump into him in a nightclub in Leicester, the Corn Exchange. And he comes over and goes, "Oh, Will, how are you?" I'm like, "Dude, you're not getting it, are you? You're not getting it. No points. We mates. You can have tickets. Points. Leave me alone. Quietly."
Amazing. Do you want to answer the question that he asked, or should we just move into the show itself?
What about the number of finals lost?
Yeah.
Look, nobody in the world has lost more than me.
Right.
So it's a record on its own.
Yeah.
5. Yeah.
Is there one in particular that stings more than the others, or do you just bundle them all in as one?
No. Look, genuinely, I had a long time to think about it. I've thought about it quite a fair few times. I lost 5 finals. 4 of them we got beaten by a better side. 2017 in Edinburgh against Saracens. It's a miracle we don't lose by 40 points. They were really better than us. 2015 Toulon, monster Toulon team, at the pinnacle of what they've done. The only one that genuinely hurts is the 2013 Aviva Clermont Toulon. Remember Dylan Armitage? Who did that to Brock James. We lose by 1 point. Still very, very nightmares.
The only thing I can say which doesn't help you in any way, shape or form, so much fun watching your team.
Yeah.
I know that doesn't give you a medal in any way, shape or form, but your team we did a lot of the work for it at Sky, and the draw would come out and we'd go, please can we have them? That's the game you wanted to do.
I still remember, didn't you did the semi against Leinster, but I think you stopped already in Lyon.
Yes,
the week before.
so I remember
all
that.
those games.
I
They were
never
so
seen
good.
as many drunk people by 11 a.m. I got hit by an egg recording my opening game, which I think was probably a sign of the presentation rather than anything else. But that was you, wasn't it? Good shot.
Yeah.
They were unreal. That was the Rob Kearney,
Yeah.
Cian Healy inside ball, wasn't it? And the Rob Kearney drop goal.
And the drop, wasn't there a drop over the line?
Yes, you're absolutely. It was Fofana.
No, but that's another semi-final in Bordeaux in 2011,
one. Oh.
and then you guys smoke Ulster the week after that in the final.
Yeah.
You put 40 points on them.
It wasn't even a game.
And Wesley Fofana has just got
That's
to put it
That's
through.
the one.
Yes.
Yeah,
That was
but-
Fofana dropped it.
Yeah.
The one you're thinking of, we all did that together.
Years
Do you remember
after.
we had the
Oh,
pitch
that
invasion?
was
All the
great.
kit
Yeah.
got pinched.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
lost your bag in your laptop.
I
The
did
crowd
some
were-
amazing games.
Yeah.
Wes
Saracens.
Fofana, you've reminded me, what
was-
a player. I mean, he's
Yeah.
as close to as good an outside centre as you'll see.
2011, 2012, best attacking player in the world probably. And then unfortunately he couldn't sustain a couple of injuries, a bit of a Ferrari. He needs to be absolutely 100%, otherwise he can't really perform, but proper player.
Yeah. You're not a great one for nostalgia, but have you kept the medals and the shirts of 9 and 11?
They're kept. I haven't. My dad was brilliant at it. He kept them all. He was very sort of touching. He'd have them all folded up, and sort of my Lions, the big Lions bags that you get. So all the jerseys are there. He kept all the good ones and a little note on them, on each of them as well.
Documented.
Yeah. So my dad died at Christmas,
Yeah.
and one of them, we were sort of having something to put into the church and around the coffin, and he had a note from the first game I played against the All Blacks, which was Joe Loma was playing the opposite wing,
Yeah.
and he had Ireland versus New Zealand. It was 2001, whatever it was. Shane outplayed Joe Nalovu, which was only a thing that a father would write, you know. So it was a beautiful sort of message and I didn't know about that actually. And we brought it out. It was just around Christmas, and my brother said, "Listen, Dad wrote you a message there." So it was very, very touching.
That's
It's a
very
nice memory.
touching.
Those little
What a great
touches.
story.
I know how old I was when I got my first cap because I had a fax.
Oh,
I had a fax. Never a backward step from my old man.
Really?
That was it. It was set November 15th, Australia, Twickenham, Horgan and Little opposite.
Oh, they're not bad.
Decent.
They're not
I had Bunce and Little the following week, twice in 3 weeks, and then the other one was Mulder and LaRue.
I thought you were going to say Mulder and Scully.
But the facts that you keep little bits like that, just
Yeah.
never a backward step. And
that's
always remember.
nice.
I know he borrowed the quote from someone else, but it's just one of those things. I thought every time I find myself genuinely off the field with health issues, family issues, or whatever, just go back to Dad's facts and just find a way to keep moving forward.
Yeah, so I don't have them everywhere, but I know they're there, which I think is a comfort. You know?
Yeah. And when Leinster finally did it, because you'd had a few run-ups, and I remember doing that game in where Will Chignall and Stuart Barnes roared, I think, as Horgan.
Oh, that was against
that was
Toulouse.
06.
That was Toulouse.
Toulouse, that's right.
Yeah.
But you had those amazing days without, and then you had the Munster game as
Yeah.
well. When you finally did it, do you remember?
I remember it so well. I've got actually just had goose bumps there because it was just genuine relief.
Yeah.
So there was an interesting sort of lead up to that. We had a very, very strong Leinster team very early, kind of young guys all coming on, doing great. We won a Celtic League. And it just never happened. And so Munster took over, and we were tipping away and doing okay with it, but just never quite getting there. And we had quite a transitional period of different coaches. Then we got to that year in 2006 where it felt like it was clicking with Czechia, and we had that amazing game in the semi-final, and we played against Munster, and Munster humiliated us.
Yeah.
Like, it was, first of all, we went out into the pitch, and apparently, like, there was no Leinster supporters there. Somehow Munster had got all the tickets. It was meant to be our home game, and so the atmosphere was incredible. We didn't deliver at all, and I remember after that, we left the stadium, and I went up, myself, Dennis Hickey, and Brian O'Driscoll went up to Brian's house and sat down and just started drinking, because we were too embarrassed to leave, to sort of face anyone that would go even for a pub. Now, we had a few jars and we went out afterwards, but it was humiliating, you know, because we were so badly beaten, and because it was Munster. And so we were carrying that through, you know, and next year it didn't happen. And then the next year it was, we you know, things were not quite going right for us, but we kind of knew that the progression was being made. And I lost my place for Ireland that year. So all of a sudden I was sort of staring down, and I lost my place for Leinster as well. I was ill before Christmas. I spent a couple of weeks in hospital, so I lost my place on both of them.
Who to?
Issa was playing on the wing instead of full back, and it was that new generation who come in with Rob and Luke and Tommy Bowe, and I was on the down. I was definitely on the sort of, felt like the downward anyway, and they were coming in fresh, so they took over, won a Grand Slam, having me spent the last 8 years of my life trying to win a Grand Slam. So they sort of achieved in a minute what I'd been trying to do my whole life, and then I didn't get picked for the Harlequins game, and I thought, well, this is it. This is my career.
That Bloodgate?
Yeah, I was on the bench for that game.
Okay.
And this is my career whimpering out. So it's just, this is it. And having not achieved a Grand Slam, having spent 12 years trying to win a Heineken Cup as it was then with Leinster, and it not happening, and then just flicked, and we were massive underdogs going into the game against Munster, who, you remember, were coming off at least one Heineken Cup win, maybe two, but they were the complete dominant force.
They'd won 06 and 08.
Yeah, so it wasn't even the case that we were going to get pumped again. That was, I'm sure the bookies were like that as well. And we went, and in fairness to Cheika, went all out for attack. So he had me on one wing, and he put Issa at full back, and I think it was Lukey on the other. And it just clicked for us. And then it was all on, and then it was the game against Leicester, which was it wasn't a glamorous game. That it was like a grindy, stressy game, but the relief, and though you've always take the piss out of me, the pictures afterwards where I'm like bawling, crying, and it's because of the relief that actually there's something tangible here in a career, which didn't look like it was going to be.
Can I just throw one name at you from that final in particular?
I think I know who it is.
Well, I don't know who else to get then.
Go on.
Alassana Tuolangi.
Yeah.
Because you see it now. I think it's still going viral. It's still going viral on TikTok and Instagram. But it goes viral with the commentary from Stuart Barnes saying, "Oh, that's lovely sportsmanship from Alassana Tuolangi," as he checks on the unpacked Shane Horgan. He's upside down with his head on halfway. Can you actually just run us through the?
Well, yeah. So whatever the opposite of sportsmanship was, that's what that was. What was going on? So. We had there was a ball kicked through, and I was hyper for the game, because you are hyper for the game, and there was a ball kicked through, and a large part of my game was chasing kicks, and it was running into the right hand corner, not far from your goal line actually, and I kind of Tuolangi was blocking me off. I sort of pushed him sort of in the back, which in retrospect wasn't the smartest move.
That is the definition of poking in the back.
I wasn't even really noticed, but he obviously had it in his mind. I should have maybe had it in my mind in the first place. And then he sort of fast forwards. It was a good, I would say, 50 minutes there, because that was like maybe certainly into the second half. And we kicked the ball deep, and we had a kick chase line, and the kick chase line wasn't that great, and I was almost a shooter out of it. And I'm kind of like, lads, where's the defensive line? No, I'm going to have to tackle this. And he didn't even hesitate about running straight into it, and he didn't no sidestep, nothing, and he ran straight into me, and there was no chance I was going to knock him backwards, and he just rolled me over. I think he fell over as a result, not because of my tackle, just because I was there, and so really felt it. But was proud of myself because I got up and got into the defensive line for the next time. And sure as eggs is eggs. What happens? The next runner comes straight at me again. So I think it took me about 10 minutes to recover from that.
Amazing. The iconic moments. I love going down memory lane with those of you who've been and done it. We have pulled together, there are 10 sort of starter points really to get stuck into around this weekend's Investec Champions Cup semi-finals. Should we just go with the obvious, which is that we've got 4 teams in the semis that love to play. Leinster Northampton at Croke Park as well, which adds a little bit of extra for the purists. And Toulouse against Quins, which is game meet game. How good is this weekend going to be?
As good as it gets, really. The symbolic of Croke Park, the incapacity for Toulouse to underestimate the attacking ability and attacking threat of Quins. And it will be at the stadium of Toulouse, which is not Ernest Vallon, the other one, slightly bigger, and they don't go there that often. So I think everything will be set. Hopefully it'll be a dry day and ready for everybody to play. Northampton have absolutely nothing to lose in the symbolic, moment of Croke Park. Toulouse
Can I just unpack that sentence? Just they have nothing to lose. I don't quite get that. It comes out, I'm not having a word there. What does they have nothing to lose actually in a sporting occasion?
They
have everything to lose.
It means if you end up losing, you're not afraid of stepping out your house like he did when they got thrashed by Munster.
Okay,
there's no humiliation at losing to Toulouse. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
But absolutely, of course, they will be heartbroken if they don't manage to reach the finals, because that's what they want to do. That's what they prepare the whole season for, and they're absolutely backing themselves at being able to do it. That's the only thing that I mean.
And I think it's maybe more from the outside, as opposed to how they're feeling.
I agree with you. I often you hear that you just go, and I'm in say Northampton's changing room now or Quinn's changing room, and Northampton's. Are they motivated by people saying there's nothing to lose?
But there is different occasions where you do think their expectation is higher. There's a comfort in being an underdog sometimes. You go, listen, you just rock up, and our expectation now, we believe we can, but nobody else does. As opposed to there can be an outside pressure that comes on that, it exists with Leinster. Like, it would be an absolute disaster for Leinster if they lose that game. In the semi-final, at home, in Croke Park, everything that comes with that against a team that they should beat. Yeah. So, when you say they have, it feels like they have everything to lose almost.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I sometimes feel that in Northampton, are we talking about the fact that were they to lose against Leinster this weekend, it's not the sort of game they'll be remembering 15 years later. Oh, that's the game we should have won. I think about Brive. You think about that one game against Toulon. It's sort of contextualising where they are as a team and the opposition.
Yeah.
The fact that I think it's Quinn's first ever European Cup semi-final, which is an extraordinary stat for a club of the prestige that they are. A bit of a surprise. Is it more of the same for them? I mean, how do they travel to Toulouse and shock the aristocrats?
How did they do it against Bordeaux in the first place? Well, I did not give them a slightest chance.
Bordeaux beat Sarries by 50.
Yeah.
Sarries beat Quins by 50.
Yeah.
Quins turn up, it should be 100.
Yeah.
Quins beat Bordeaux.
Without Marler and Danny Kerr?
Weirdly enough, has Will Porter been playing better than Danny Kerr anyway?
That's the difference.
And Finn Baxter is starting to turn up. So I think the reality is, we might get into detail later. I know the monstrosity and the size of the Toulouse pack and their ability to play. I get the individual. I don't see Toulouse's backline as a totally coherent narrative that says they are empathetic, symbiotic to what's going on. Cost young kid coming through wants to pull some trees up. Aki can shoot and jump out the line and make his own call. Malia, I'm never quite sure of. Gets on the end of some absolute bangers. Labelle, amazing feet there. Kinghorn's relatively new to it, wonderful player. So I think Quins go to it going, we get our game, our structures going, and we go bang, bang, 1-2 quick tries, which they can do. I think try and getting Toulouse to check. I give Quins a chance.
Well, the parallels here are the game that you mentioned earlier. That everything's about Leinster, but the Leinster Toulouse game in 2006, where there was Toulouse were and still are obviously, but the aristocrats, and we were a good team with good players that hadn't delivered, but were capable of scoring tries and playing a very expansive way. And it clicked with Leinster that day, and you do feel that the way Harlequins play, it can click and they can score those tries, which they may need to score from their own 22. And that doesn't mean it's not complete, like Baba's rugby, you're throwing it all over the place. It's identifying an opportunity under the baking heat with maybe a forward pack who are sucking in the clouds a little bit. They're feeling a bit of pressure, and you go, right, it's on, and then it's 3 passes and then go. And having that, the nous to do it, and having the ambition and the bottle to do it, and being aware of it.
I believe it's mission impossible for Quins, unfortunately.
You do?
Yeah. Because two things. Because the Toulouse pack is much bigger than the Bordeaux pack. They are absolute freaks of nature.
Right.
Meafou at the moment is just a force on his own. They're going to be able to slow the ball down. They will not care about not lighting up the stadium.
For Toulouse?
At 8.
Who will be 8?
Probably Roumat or François Cross, I don't know. I think Willis will definitely be in there anyway because he's smoking it. I don't know. It's a good question. That might influence who they will pick or not. But I think they will have a 10. Not Theo Garcia, who played for Bordeaux. They will have a 10 with Ntamak, who will be ready to bomb it wherever they need. They play Kinghorn on the wing now. It actually worked out really well last week, and that might be the balance that they needed to sort out a little bit how they do it. So I think they will keep the ball in the forwards, and they are so big and so powerful that they can just malax those Quins forwards as long as it takes, and they will have a 10 to control the game for them. I think that little sparkle of there's nothing better than I think the Hugo Mola and all those guys will show press coverage of do you want to be Bordeaux? A couple of weeks ago. Do you want to replicate all the mistakes they made? Do you want to not give the respect that Quins should have given their past recent history? I think they will show a 20. I can already see Hugo Mola printing out a picture of the 28-0 I think is Bristol Bears semi-final of the Premiership, and Quins came back. They will just show it everywhere and then wind the players up. Do not be the fools to take it for granted. However, all that given, I don't think it's possible for Quins.
Really?
Quins will go, let's make it 55-50.
Yeah.
And get into it. And you think, that's strange to take Toulouse on at that game. Yeah. But they have to go. They have to go play that. They have to make it as loose as possible. Yeah. Drag them into it. Because if they get it as loose as possible, Marcus puts Caden Murley off his outside shoulder. He drops Don Brandt on his inside shoulder by going. They have... I don't think I think Quins in their head will be saying, let's score 50 points. And if we lose at 50... Then fine. It was 42-41 or whatever it was against Bordeaux. But in their mindset, they will go from the gun. Absolutely.
And won't be worried about going 20.
Won't care about winning
6-8 going down.
No, just make it as fast and as loose as possible. Northmore's back and could give them that direction in the midfield that they can play off and behind. Look, I'm sitting sort of here as an Englishman and as an ex-Queen. I'm trying to find reasons. I don't see both semi-finals being a blowout. We watched European rugby for so many years, and there are two dominant sides in it. It's amazing what happens in semi-finals. You get to 60 minutes, and there's a yellow card or whatever. Something takes place, and of the two that I can see being closer, I give Quins slightly more of a chance than Northampton.
Take us to events at Croke Park. Leinster can't lose.
When was the last time I was here? A few weeks ago before the England game. And
trumping an Ireland win, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I could see how... I didn't think that they would win. I could see how England could win, and that's what. But I didn't believe they would. I think you could make a similar case for Northampton. I think you could see a circumstance or a series of events that they could win. But you got to be honest about this. Leinster at their best, I think, it's only Toulouse, I think, that can live with them in this tournament. So, the weekend depends whether they, deliver a performance that's, in their differential, really.
Have they got any injury worries? Anyone? Is Ringrose back?
No, but it's Ringrose less of an issue, bizarrely. Osborne has operated very well there. The centres the line speed is faster. Seeing Niambar, the difference that he's made was notable really in the last European Cup game. He said, I think, bizarrely, he said it's going to take something like 14 weeks for this new system to bed in, and I think it was 13 weeks.
Right.
And then we saw the marked difference in the way Leinster were defending, and if they continue on with that, then I think that is a big issue for Northampton. But
great opportunity for someone like Dingwall, though. He's the best line player in England. He's the best bloke at the line. I get it, 14 weeks. Maybe it needs 16 weeks to bed in. And that's what Northampton, they'll go at them hard. They'll go 9-12 a lot, get Finn out the back, and they might stick Freeman back on the wing, play that Litchfield in centre. But Dingwall will go back into the midfield. If I was, I don't know if Hutchinson is fit either, I'd go with both ballers. And again, go to Leinster and try. And
well, this is the interesting thing, right? So because the defensive system is slightly different, it's slightly more aggressive. Like counterintuitively, there's maybe bigger opportunity for full-on busts. You know, that's the way that system operates because, you know, previously Leinster very, very consistent in the way they defended. And what maybe undid them in the biggest days was that they were slightly, you know, while a consistent line speed, and certainly not passive, but you know, they could. The bigger teams would just roll numbers and gradually, you know, more yardage, and not massive, but just, you know, soaking tackles, and then, you know, the big proponents of it were La Rochelle. That eventually, you know, they're in the 22, and then they come out with a score. It's a pressure building. Whereas the new defensive system puts them on the offense a bit more, but it does leave elbows. Yeah, and you would think Northampton, you know, on a good day with all things going right at their best, could exploit some of those elbows.
It's a loose question, but you referenced that England-Ireland game and you look at Mitchell, Freeman and Furbank, who obviously played for... Is there anything in what England did to Ireland in the Six Nations which is useful for Northampton coming into this weekend?
Yeah, but it's probably more likely to be Coles and Laws trying to deny Leinster some possession. Yeah. And if they can attack the touchline, as in attack Leinster, the Leinster is so similar to, they do so many bounce-out plays. The way they get away with Jameson, Gibson Park and Van der Fleer. Henshaw comes short and then they go out the back or they hit him. That variety that they have in that sort of 10 to 15 metre channel just off the edges of mauls, they're so clever at that. And the best way to prevent that is to try and get at them in the line-out. The problem is, I mean, Leinster's line-out's fantastic, but it's Laws. Coles is playing really well. They have to try, if they can limit Leinster to 70% line-out possession as opposed to their normal 90%, then again, we're finding things that gives them a chance. Leinster can still win with 50% line-out, but Northampton will feel they can be in it on minute 60 if they can deny them the upfront possession. If they go 100% possession, scrum and line-out, then you can't see anything other than a Leinster victory.
Can I ask you a very quick question about Croke Park? And I know the political history that goes with it, and it's a sensitive subject. But is this just a one-off, or is there any way that Irish rugby would ever be able to use Croke Park on a more regular basis? It's such a phenomenal stadium.
Yeah, and its size, the capacity.
Is it 90,000?
Yeah, well, it's not kicking the arse off it. Like I think it's 80 something. It does make for the democratization of rugby as well, which is something that rugby needs to do. You know, it's more difficult, even the capacity of Twickenham or Stade de France because of your populations. But actually, it makes a difference in Ireland if you open that capacity. A difference between, you know, just touching on nearly 50 and 80. And especially for a Leinster game, at this stage of the tournament, makes a difference. It allows people access to tickets, which, you know, is a cohort of people who wouldn't normally go. And that's actually makes a difference. That's a reason why kids follow rugby, because they have an experience with their mum or their dad or their uncle or their aunt going to a game, and next thing they're bitten by it. Yeah. And, you know, they don't have to go every week, but they have to have an experience and of an event. So I think that opening up of rugby and right through all the countries in the Northern Hemisphere, you know, rugby is a private school or public school is a game. So, you know, in order to expand the footprint, you want opportunities like this. But the answer is no, because
it's just a one-off.
It's just, it's not just, if there was a tournament potentially, it could be opened up. I don't think there's any issue with the GAA who own the stadium now. That sort of, the genie's out of the box after, you know, if England played there, surely, you know, they were going to allow the European Cup there. That's not an issue. It's just that the IRFU own their stadium in the Aviva, and just from an economic point of view, it wouldn't make sense.
Sell the Aviva, buy a share in Croker.
You've got it sorted. You can do the negotiation.
But even if it's just a one-off, it will be a proper one-off, and people will be hooked after a performance like that. It is a special stadium, and I've got nothing against Aviva. It's very pretty. Yeah. Croke Park is
It
something
is
else.
also with the big
enormous,
window at
and
one
it's
end.
enormous.
It's huge.
And listen,
and it's
like-
steep. I think it's
And
incredible.
it was a very small period of history where Irish rugby players got to play in it. You know, while the Viva was being redeveloped, and I only played in it. You know, played in it twice. That first season, played against France, had an absolute devastating loss. What it could have been our Grand Slam.
Vincent Clerc.
Vincent Clerc. I like Vincent
Yeah.
so much, but I hated him that day. And then we played the obviously the game against England, which was just the most sort of maybe emotional game. Well, the most emotional game I ever played. Part of social history. And then a little later, we got to play that insane, then a world record attended game, Ireland, Leinster versus Munster in the semi-final. So, you know, we don't know when the next opportunity for this to happen again will be, but it's both, the Northampton players, but the Leinster players it's a special experience.
What will Leinster be nervous of with regards to Northampton?
I think
Do
they'll
they not think like that?
Yeah, I think they'll be, this is kind of, feels like what you call it, media speak, but they will be almost entirely focused on themselves and their level of delivery of what they could do. And I suppose that is a little bit of a slight to Northampton, actually, because there's a little bit of we are better than you. And if we deliver our best game, it actually doesn't matter what you deliver. So in terms of the offensive pattern, I think, they know what they're doing, and we all kind of know what they're doing, but trying to stop it is very difficult. The other element of it then is this development of the defensive system, and you kind of think maybe that was the last piece of the puzzle. They'll also have learned a number of things from the La Rochelle performance, and what they did. But the selection was slightly different. Connors at 7 was really interesting, purely because he's a chop tackler. I don't think they'll be thinking the same way this week, but they might be if they get into the final. So they
On that, did they drop? I mean, I suppose you said it rested, rotated horses for courses. Was it genuinely we're going to take the World Player of the Year and stick him on the bench because we're so worried about Aldrit and Skelton getting around the corner, and we need someone in a blue cap who's just going to take them down at the knee?
I think so. I think there had been some injury, in the background, but I think it was a genuine pick. And if you cast your mind back to maybe 3 years, maybe not 4, maybe 3 years, Connors was getting picked ahead of Van der Fleer for Ireland, and then had a couple of sort of dormant years because of injury, and obviously Van der Fleer just went bananas. And then, but I think they're looking at that back row in particular as a unit of 5. There is a lot of good players in the back row, and a Baird, whether he starts, whether
or run a 400 metre in an Olympic final.
So
Oh my God!
you've got you've got Connors, you've got Van der Fleer, you've got Conan, you've got Doris. That's a huge unit of power. They are going to through the whole 90 minutes. They're going to make a big difference. So, I thought Leinster looking at things in a totally different way against La Rochelle. So they had lost the 3 previous games, some big games. But what they didn't do, and maybe what they did in the final last year, was, right, we're going to do what we did the year before, but we're going to do it harder, right? And that didn't work in the final. Now, so there was still a chance, and maybe it's the easy thing to do, to go, if we go even harder again, we will beat them this time. But they didn't. They looked at things differently, and they tweaked it. So the defence obviously changed because of Niambar. The selection was tweaked as well. But also they were absolutely ruthless around stopping Bottia from this sort of dominant role that he has had in those fixtures. And I think that's what Leinster will be looking at again. Clean, fast ball. We'll be okay.
Okay.
You want to speak about Bottia? He played his 200th game for La Rochelle last week, and so they did a highlight. Just have a look at his highlights. It's a guy who's melting people for about 10 minutes.
Like a kill counter in the bottom left corner.
He is a human cannonball. Yeah. Every single ball implication that he's had is like melting this guy, destroying this one. Just an unbelievable set. But to go back to your point, I think what they learned from La Rochelle is that the defense needs to change. Now, it will be really interesting, just purely on the neutral side, to see if they have to adapt their defense system. Because I think La Rochelle was about win the gain line, right? Not allow ever La Rochelle to win the gain line. So you need to go fast off the blocks, win those leads. As you saw them, sprinting at each other. Tan Furlong was on a different planet. You can tell he was really on a mission to stop the big fellas.
Was that man marking as close to man marking as you've seen?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Apparently, that's what
But
they
also,
asked them to do.
it was, you could tell, who the La Rochelle ball carriers are.
Yeah.
You know who
can see them coming.
You know who's getting the ball. So, and the difference between me and you here, or me there and you here, like that can be done in those close quarters, because it's not a very wide attack when they go to that those forward carriers. You kind of know who's getting it, but it's trying to stop them. It's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
Whether it be Aldred, whether it be stuff different, Antonio, or Bottia, Skelton. Yeah. So you know who's getting it, but it's a different manner of trying to stop them.
But I'll be really interested to see if they do the same thing against Saints. If it's about not allowing them to win the gain line, or just slowing them down. Period.
Yeah.
So you might see another Jack, Niederberg card pull out about, choke tackles a little bit more. Just slow down every single ruck that you possibly can. It's not so much about racing out the line, maybe being a little bit tighter together. Never let them have under 2.5 ruck, speed, because otherwise that's when Saints get really, really threatening.
The question being, have you ever known a South African change his defensive system?
I don't know. Plan A, go hard. Plan B, go harder.
Go harder again. You're not going hard enough. With a few expletives thrown in.
Very interesting. I'm going to come back to who wins and why a little bit later on. Can we just take a little bit of a step out of the weekend's fixtures and just look at the tournament as a whole? And I say that going back into the weekend fixtures because you've got Claremont against Sharks at the Twickenham Stoop. And we're talking about Toulouse and the events at Croke Park going to be the best of Europe. I'm not quite sure what that is. Claremont Sharks, I mean, obviously you'll be there, so it'll be a fantastic broadcast. But it throws the question around South African sides in what was Europe is now just the Champions Cup into question. Bulls have done no favours to the pro South African teams in this competition with what happened in the last round. South Africa in the Champions Cup, yet to fully fire, therefore yes or no?
Look, I had a small glimpse of hope, because I thought things better. I saw some French teams delighted about going down once to South Africa to face those big teams, just living a different experience, coming back and being really happy. I just think we shoot ourselves in the foot. Logistically, it's a nightmare, and we keep on making it so complicated. I thought we hit the worst of the worst last year when you heard those guys were like had to do 6 different travels to get to Europe just because we signed a contract with Qatar Airways, I think it was, so they couldn't fly British Airways straight to England. You're thinking surely we could have done a little bit better, right? Yeah. They had to go through Doha and then go back to Europe and then again do those 6 flights. I'm thinking, I mean, that's just purely stupid. When you sign the thing, you make sure that logistically it can work. And this year we did it again. They kept on going back, forth. So yes, the Bulls, I'm not questioning what Jake White did and the team selection, that's a different story. But surely we could give ourselves a chance of making it better. And I just think we're shooting ourselves in the foot. So still disappointed, but still frustrated because it can be better. So I'm not totally... I haven't reached the conclusion of should they be here part of the tournament or not. I'm not convinced that it's adding anything. It's definitely not European rugby. On a side note, I still can't. I can't change the wording just yet.
Yeah,
we did in 2016.
What do you mean?
With the Brexit referendum.
Yes.
We changed our word.
So I don't know. I just think,
what do you think about the selection?
So 2 things on that, super quick on that. One is you're either we welcome them with open arms. Yeah. And they can have a semi-final at home. You can't deny them a semi-final at home.
Which we
can't say,
done.
Which is what is so. Which means.
So why has this come about? So, sorry, for those that don't know.
I'm not actually sure. All I know is it's there.
Right. Say like everyone here.
You're inviting them in, and you sort of half invite them in, so you can play. But if there's a semi-final, by the way, you've got to come up and play it quick. So that's one thing. The other thing, there's got to be. I sort of get in the pool stages where you rotate. Yeah. Has to be a fallow week. Between quarterfinals and semi-finals.
Yeah, or round 16 and quarters,
yeah.
which is even harder.
Because I'm sure Leinster would still have beaten La Rochelle. But La Rochelle played nicked it. Libok missed a kick. They're then on a plane. They then stay in west of Ireland. Do they? There's Ronan
They're
Cork.
staying in Cork.
They're staying in
Photo
Cork.
Ireland, where Ronan had his wedding, or was there about 20 years ago.
Right.
I said he's still squeezing them for you, Bob. There's another shirt gone up. They had the Munster one and the Irish one, and now the La Rochelle one.
The La Rochelle have to travel, play within 6 days, and go and play Leinster.
Yeah.
And Bulls have 6 days or 7 days, and then have to go and find themselves at Northampton. And so there's two. The conclusion is, I don't mind them in.
Yeah.
But if they're in, you've got to give the opportunities in the knockout stages to have a week off to travel between South Africa as a joke. And then the second thing is they've got to be allowed to have you've got to play quarters, semis. If they're in, they're in.
Yeah.
And they can play if they're the best top seed, they get to play at home, and then they go hard at it, and we get to see some of the best players in the world playing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's working, to be honest with you. But once you let that genie out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. And I think it's only it's not going to change. I think there's actually a chance that the Springboks is a viable team in the Six Nations. That comes up every so often, and it may well do again, and certainly because of financial considerations. And it feels like this is the only thing contemplated when we were bringing these teams in. It's not a natural fit. It damages Southern Hemisphere rugby from my perspective. What's Super Rugby now used to be one of the most pristine rugby events in the world, the ones that we loved watching. Now it doesn't exist in any sort of other form. So it's not for the betterment of rugby all over the world. There's a consideration that it makes some financial sense for some teams in Europe and maybe in South Africa, but I don't think it is working. And the fact that, I get your point, it's not fair. They're set up to fail, in fairness, but come on. From a PR perspective, at least, it's the top team. It's the quarterfinal. Like, whatever you have to do to get the players out, to get the best players, you have to get them out. And that is, I think, more than anything, I don't think we're necessarily having this conversation the same way if the Bulls didn't do what they did in the last round.
But the Bulls knew they had to go away in the semi. Now their seeding puts them there anyway. But if they knew they had to go away anyway, they're going to go, well, we can win the Urk. Do they call it the Urk?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
URC, I think we'll go with them,
It's a
yeah.
rugby club in Rome called Urk.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right. Another couple of things. There's far too many teams in the bloody competition.
So this was, I was going to my next question.
Then you can get through to knockout stages having won one game.
Yeah.
So the format's a joke.
Yeah.
So what should it look like then? We've got 8 from the 8 out of 10 from the Prem.
5, 6,
top 14 too.
5, 6, 7. 5 from Prem, 6 from top 14, 7 from them, because there's 10 in ours, 14 in theirs, and 16 in theirs.
Yeah.
The winner of the Challenge Cup goes in, winning the Champions Cup goes in. You go back to 4 pools of 5. You have a narrative in the knockouts, in the group stages, and the top 2 go through. And there's anyway, just a couple of ideas. But there was a time when there was I get it because of COVID. There were those couple of years where there were 2 12-team pools, and you knew Cast were never going to turn up. So you could pick it became like the Champions League, as in the pool stage were a complete waste of time. Can we just skip forward to February?
Yeah.
But that's the whole complexity of, we are not a world sport yet. Okay, we need to be economically, sporting wise. I don't know, but we're not hitting the bigger major markets, and unfortunately, there's this equilibrium which is impossible to get between more economical value by more games and better games by more games. And unfortunately, for me, they do not. They don't equalize each other. You cannot ask to have more teams, to create more TV rights, to have more people coming around, to spread the word about these beautiful games, and create quality entertainment. It's just simply undoable, because you can't ask the players to play more and to play more than 1 week, and because there aren't that many fantastic teams that you can put in front of each other everywhere. So, saying that we need to play more to generate more cash is to the detriment of the quality of the rugby.
Okay.
And also,
and if you do it too fast, then that's where we are.
And there's the other thing. Let's look at other markets, and let's that's the solution to everything we're doing. Do you remember Saracens playing over in New York a couple of years ago? You know? So it's actually not about that. I don't think it's not about find those markets come if your product at home is sorted. Concentrate on what we're doing here. Make lean into all the brilliant stuff about European rugby, about Six Nation rugby. What makes them different? What differentiates themselves? The history of rugby. Develop all the structures that we need here. The playing base. All that stuff. You can't let that wither and just what's on over here. What's over here? This other big market in the States. Oh, sure, that'll be the solution to everything. It won't be. Actually sort things out at home, develop the game here, expand it as much as it can in Europe, in all our countries. And then, that's, you've got a good footing for the people maybe being interested in it then, but not like letting it wither. And this competition has withered over the years because they haven't got the format right. They've messed around with it. They brought in teams out, and it doesn't have the kudos. It doesn't have the authority that it had a number of years ago.
There's a nice little suggestion from Charlie Richardson in the Telegraph. They did a piece about 4 weeks ago about how you could improve it. I mean, he was thinking left field, but go straight to an FA Cup, straight knockout from round one.
Which would be brilliant.
Totally incentivise winning from day one. 32 teams in it.
I tell you one thing: if that was the case, you'd be watching every week. At the moment you're going to get, and I'm not necessarily a proponent of this. Idea. I'm not a proponent of it necessarily, but you do think that if that was the case, there's not like, I'll check in at the quarterfinals. And listen, truth be told, if I wasn't watching it sometimes because I have to watch it, you'd go, listen, I'm not that interested in that game. Well, Leinster are going to be in, or Munster are going to be. They're going to be at the knockout stages. So like, why bother? And I know I have a lot of friends like that. So, but if it was knockout. You'd be watching every week.
Did the Bulls beat Leon? Did the Bulls beat Leon?
Yeah.
What team did Leon send to Bulls? Again. Yeah. So you then, again, point in case, right?
Would you
case in point, sorry.
That's a good point that the Greens just made, is that we keep on bashing on the South Africans, but France did it a couple of times.
Yep.
Rotating some squad. I remember a 70-something win from Leinster against Montpellier, and I was there, and I was embarrassed. Yeah. It really was a rotated, didn't care type of squad.
They went through because they backed themselves to win their 3, because they know if I win 2 games out of my 6 or out of my 5, I'll get through anyway. I'll just win my home games. Yeah. They sent an absolute. I mean, the kids tried their best, right? But it was a second 15, Montpellier second 15 against Leinster's best at the RDS, and you just go, you switch over.
So it's a very quick question just on the Investec Champions Cup as it is now. You referenced Super Rugby, which we all used to get up and enjoy Saturday mornings watching back in the Rockstar days. There is absolutely no doubt that as a tournament has declined, and significantly so. You've mentioned the fact that the Investec Champions Cup, or Harlequin Cup as it was, has drifted. Are we seeing it beginning to trend upwards again? What is the direction of travel for this competition now to all three of you? Are we feeling more positive about it, or is there still a lot to sort?
I still love the competition. I really do. I think it's still the pinnacle competition in the Northern Hemisphere for clubs, and probably the pinnacle of in club rugby. Maybe we get a North-South. I don't know how that's never happened. It's
in the offing, I think.
In Abu Dhabi, got the Abu Dhabi Tourism Board on, and we're going to play in Sheikh Zayed Stadium. We had all the individual sides saying we'll do it.
When was this?
Me and a couple of mates managed to put a little consortium together a few years ago, and then so all the Leicester would go, Crusaders would go, Sharks would go, and then they all found out about it. The governing bodies, Sanzar, and that's not happening. We're not letting some private musketeers put on a game. But Abu Dhabi were prepared to throw a bucket load of cash at it.
I remember there was floated the year we won with Czech, the first year to 2009. There was something floated in potentially Monaco, bringing the Crusaders up as well, which would have been.
Albert would have managed
to just get off the yacht. So anyway, listen, that's a little bit of sidetrack there, but I still like. Then there is, for all its flaws, from quarters on,
exactly.
I'm absolutely absorbed by it. I really am, and these games are brilliant, and not every one of them, but there's always a couple of cracking games in the knockout stages and in each round, and so
that's a test for you this year. So the quarterfinals have been amazing, semis and final will be awesome, and I might be completely wrong. You might name 4 at me now, but we all like watching our rugby. Knockout game that you remember from this year? Not knockout.
Northampton winning at Munster.
Pool game. Northampton winning at Munster. Northampton winning at Glasgow. Yeah, okay. So there are a couple. So
couple.
Again,
but they're rare.
Myself. But any French teams have any great?
La Rochelle had a couple of them. They went down to, was it Bull?
But we're picking singles here, aren't we? Yeah. Whereas you think back to the glory days of the miracle match, and I mean, you can go on and on and on. He says without going on and on.
Yeah, but are we also like? I think a little bit of
rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah, a little bit of roasted. There weren't all those games weren't great, you know. There weren't, but there were many good. There were many good games. Like I remember going to the Rec, you know, to play Bath. Like they were like rock star game, really good fun. Like it on the line. There was there was a lot more games that you thought were watchable.
There was jeopardy. Only two teams get out, or at one stage was it winners plus best two runners up.
Those back-to-back fixtures.
Yeah. I love them.
They were phenomenal in December.
I
and the
love them.
spice that went from game 1 to game 2.
Yeah. But even do you remember
phenomenal.
the early days, and you'll know this even better, that there was who was the French team or the Welsh team where there was like a 100-point swing?
Pontypridd.
There was a 100-point swing.
It
It was a
happened.
100-point swing.
That also happened between Leicester and Ulster.
Was it?
Leicester, Ravenhill,
Yes, you're absolutely
chucking it down with rain,
Yeah.
wind one way, Belfast 33-6, Ulster beat Leicester. Back to Leicester the next week, 65-8. It was literally a 100-point swing.
Yeah.
And George
That
Best was mentioned 8 times in commentary because he was born just round the back of the stadium. And who's our wonderful Mark Robson would always bring. You couldn't do a Ravenhill game without getting Georgie Best.
That
there.
was straight off the back of the World Cup win in 03, because I remember Johnson being booed in his tracksuit on the touchline.
got beat by 30.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck to them. None of you have answered the question. Where are we trending? You were trending up
From
they did.
quarterfinals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sort the
but
pool
you-
stages
so-
out.
yeah.
You heard a lot of criticism, but you heard a love for the game and for the quality of rugby that's been displayed. And I totally agree with what's been said. You know, from quarter and onwards, super exciting games with the top teams really delivering. You mentioned a couple of French teams. Bordeaux have been on fire, and when they put 45 on Saracens in Chabannes-Delmas, there was a proper performance. You know, Toulouse going to Quins and putting 40 on them. That was a proper pool game. So no, there's been some outstanding performances. In my mind, and you sort of mentioned it, it's the top 8 that qualify in top 14 in the Premiership. That is just simply not working.
Yeah.
Because it's not giving you the exquisite of the elite. You know, to qualify, it's almost mission impossible. I mean, Premiership has got 10 clubs now.
Yes.
Top 8 qualify.
Yeah.
One of them's Newcastle Falcons, who can't win
So,
it.
so from the get-go, you're killed. Your pool stages have to be unbearable, have to be with clubs who've got a ton of other things to worry about. And simply, if you could ask them, would you have the you know, if the money wasn't there to the incentivize to play the Champions Cup, would you? They would simply answer, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I would focus on the club. So I think it's about how you qualify to that. That's the problem.
And the last bit on the minutiae that totally confused me this year was, were there, in the last 16, there are 8 matches, obviously, were 7 of them repeats, or
Yes,
5 of them
from
repeats.
pool matches.
From pool matches. Where you
Yeah.
just go, well, we should have just gone to the FA
Well,
Cup
yeah,
format.
there you
But do you
go.
remember
Gone
why
to a
they
straight
changed?
knockout?
Do you
Because the
remember
others were
why
a waste of
they
time.
changed the format? Or was it 4 or 5 years ago? It's been 4 years consecutively with the same teams in the semi-finals, and they thought that's a disgrace. It was Clermont, Saracens, Leinster, and I can't
Toulon?
remember.
No.
And
Toulouse?
Toulon, yes, in Toulon. And they were like, look, it doesn't. Why not? What's the problem with that? Explain to me what the problem is with having guys who are working their socks off to get to the semi-final every time.
See Real
There's a
Madrid
reason why.
every year,
There's
Man
a reason
City,
why
or
they're
not?
there. So you try to shuffle it, and in the end, you have remixes of the pool stages, and it's relatively the same teams in the semis anyway.
But you know, interesting you should say that. The other thing that I think the competition needs is consistently good English teams that are getting to the final or winning it. You know, and that's, you know, it's from a one-eyed Irishman. That's not really, usual, but it is really important. It's not enough that, you know, French teams win it every year with like sort of Leinster thrown in here or there. It's actually, they need to come to the plate. Now, that's not even talking about like Scottish or Welsh teams, which would, you know, obviously is what you want, but doesn't seem at the moment very attainable. So what is attainable? It's, you know, English teams being successful, and that means finals or winning.
So with that in mind, 1 from URC, 1 from top 14, 2 from Prem in the semis. Does the Prem need a bit more of a pat on the back, given what the hell it's had to go through?
Does he need a pat on the back, or is it by default because 3 teams disappeared and all the best teams then, all the best players have found themselves, Pearson's found himself at Northampton, and they've been
But is the Prem
go
beginning
to
to trend up?
8? I think
Is it
Premiership's
trending
better
upwards?
with 8 clubs.
Yeah,
I mean,
you've
I don't
said
want
that,
2 clubs
yeah.
to go bust and lots of people to lose their jobs. But less is more, going
Okay.
back to the whole thing, and then open up some more weekend for some big European stuff. So I think the reality, 2 of them of getting to the top have been helped by what's happened with the English league.
Okay. We've got a quiz for you. You can be as one team. You can do it together. And I want to ask you who wins and why. The last thing I wanted to quickly ask you about in Ireland specifically was Jordie Barrett. Roger's come out and had a lot to say about the fact that all the cards seem to be sliding into Leinster's colours at the moment, and Ulster and Connacht and Munster are sort of trailing a little bit. Is Jordie Barrett brilliant for URC, the European Champions Cup as it is? Or is it? Are we beginning to see a bit too much of one province holding all the power?
I think that's a legitimate position to hold. So my old team, I think a really strong signing. Like, I think good for him as well. He's got an attachment to my own home county. County Meath. He spent time there growing up as a kid, so I think he very much wanted to do it. I think he would have a good time. The proposition with going to Leinster is, at the moment, you have to say, very different than the proposition of going even to Munster, never mind Ulster or Connacht. So it's something that players will want to do, likely to be successful, likely to be in semi-finals and finals and whatnot. He will bring intellectual property that's really important to Leinster and those Leinster players, and I think Leinster players will develop as a result of it. He will take intellectual property back, I'm sure, to somebody, which is something maybe we never spoke about before, but I think that's a legitimate thing, and it's maybe not insignificant in his decision making as well. But the amount of players that Leinster can generate, the amount of players they have on Irish contracts, which means it doesn't come out of their pool of costs, I think is, if I was the other teams, I'd be saying that this is not particularly fair. I also think as well, at some point, Leinster can go. We are sort of we select only from Leinster, especially when things are going well. Now, I benefited from a Leinster team that didn't have the quality, and we needed overseas signings in a couple of places, and they came in and they made a huge difference. Look at the difference sort of Issa Nasiwa made to Leinster, like incredible. Still it left a mark there long after he left, and the mark is still there. So I can see the benefit of getting to the point, but I do think it's tough for the teams looking at Leinster in Ireland going, so how come they're getting
how does it work? How does it work exactly? You say their contracts are by the federations. It doesn't come out of their money. How does that work?
So you've got a central Irish contract. So the top, I think 20 or so Irish players, maybe not even that many, get paid for in effect directly from the IRFU. And then the individual provinces have their own budget as well. So, and I'm not, listen, I'm not an authority on this, but if, for example, the back row, for Leinster are all on Irish contracts, that means that they don't have to fund it out of their own Leinster budget, whereas Munster will be funding their back row, and they may not have the money to go for Jordie Barrett.
Or England are going.
But it's not their fault if they have more Irish internationals, is it?
No, it's not. And so you don't want to penalise someone for that. You should actually, you should encourage it. But there is a need to have strong provinces as well and share the wealth a little bit. Now, it's difficult because if you're from Leinster, you want to play for Leinster.
Yeah.
As simple as that. And if you're, part of that Leinster backroom staff, you're going, who are the very best players we can get? Who's going to make sure we win European Cup every year? So from a Leinster perspective, it's brilliant. Like, Barrett, what a signing. I think Schleiman as well, him coming in, that's another piece of the jigsaw. You think, Leinster could be massively dominant. If he's fit next year, you think, what kind of a pack do they have then with him coming on or start, or rotating in? So, from Leinster, they've done everything right. But if I was one of the other provinces, I'd be a bit sniffy about it.
Has anyone left Leinster and done well? Have they ever got rid of anyone and he's gone and turned around and said, I
told you.
Oh yeah, well, who's the best example? I think one of the best players in the world at the moment is Tyke Byrne.
Oh yeah,
well, he didn't. He was in the Leinster academy, got released, went to Scarlets. Was phenomenal. Then came down to Munster. Munster's best player, maybe Ireland's best player as well. So it's not many.
But it's where England are going now. But actually, McCall is saying, can we sort this out because we need to plan for next year because Itoje and Jamie George are two of the people who'll be on central contracts. But as yet, it hasn't been organised and sorted, and the ink isn't dry. And Saracens are obviously understand they're working within a wage cap, but if the central contracts can supplement their income to, I think the value, again, apologies for those who know the detail, something to the value of £150,000 a year they'll be paid by England which will allow them to rest more games, which will allow Saracens within their player pool or their fund, their salary cap, to then potentially go and get some players that can then start to compete with La Rochelle or with Leinster, and that's obviously the longer term plan. Sharing the load with the England players.
There's a lot going on backstage. We're actually hoping to have a sit down with Bill Sweeney before the end of the season, so hopefully there'll be some news to announce in that regard. 3 members of Mensa. It is time for your Continental Tyres quiz.
Quick quiz
of
for you.
the week.
Who is Bill Sweeney related to? England rugby player?
No. I was going to say, what was the woman in EastEnders? Claire Sweeney.
No.
No.
Austin Healy.
Shut up.
I think first or second cousin, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
There you go. Does that mean Austin's heading into the corridors of power?
Who knows?
God help us all. Your Continental Tyres quiz of the week. Good luck. It's not that difficult, but let's see how you get on. Question number 1. In 2022, Ronan O'Gara joined Leinsterman Leo Cullen as the only 2 people to have achieved what?
Too easy.
Yep.
Playing coach.
Wins as player and coach, correct. Question number 2. If Leinster win the Champions Cup, who becomes the most decorated player in EPCR history?
Keane
Healy.
Very good. 2009, Shane and Ben, you both played in the Heineken Cup final with Leicester and Leinster. Will, we were at Murrayfield with Sky. Who was the player of the match?
You guys won it. At a guess, I'd always go a number 8 sort of. I'm thinking Heaslett would always be in amongst it. They're saying no.
Close.
Back row forward.
If you remember that year, there was only one person.
Rockstar rugby.
Rocky Elsom.
Very good.
Never, by the way, there has never been a more influential player in European Cup history than that guy.
Because
Wow.
That's a
big
big
statement.
that year.
Let's
Big
unpack this.
statement.
in one
Sorry,
year.
in that one season, boy, he was. Look at the tapes. He was man of the match in almost every game we played. It was like having your big brother who was 18 playing the under 14s. That's what it was like that year. He was so good. I don't know, and he never repeated it. And Nixon, he was good for Australia
retired, like,
before.
a year
And
after that or
he
something.
never sort of got it back together. But the stars aligned that year. He was a phenomenon.
You're trying to think of another
I'm trying
player.
to think, well, so was someone from Toulon? They won 3 on the spin.
Wow, Johnny.
Wilkinson was quite influential.
Close to win 3 on the spin. Are you saying
We're talking
No,
about
they
one
did- they did.
season.
I'm
win
saying
3
a
on the spin.
one-off season that he was something.
who's dragged a team to glory? Okay, good. We'll let that stew.
Yeah.
But great opening gambit.
And
Bold statement.
just an additional question: who lost the final possession for Leicester Tigers in that final against Leinster?
Ben Kayser.
Just saying.
That
Just to
wasn't on
make
here,
it,
but I'll-
just
You
to
didn't
make it
want to
even,
talk
a
about
little
it,
bit
no,
even more.
my head was still spinning from the knock.
You were picking it
From
out of the
Alessandro.
top tier of the stadium. I'm glad you're over it. That's the good thing. Question number 4. Tawira Kerbalo was the latest player to complete the Super Rugby and Champions Cup career double. But who was the first player to achieve it?
Oh, I know.
I know.
Brad Thorne.
Thorne. And then he also won Queensland. But you're about to say no.
That's not correct.
So is it
Really?
Victor Vito?
Nope.
Oh, Eastern Asiba.
Nope.
Why not
Give us a
Brad?
team.
Why not Brad Thorne?
So it must be before him.
Yeah, before. Earlier.
Before Thorne.
Howlett.
Nope.
Paddy Howard.
Earlier. Very good. I went Paddy Howard. It's not Paddy Howard, but
Oh.
you're in the right.
So
You're in the
annoying.
right. You're
Jim
very,
Williams.
very close to the right space.
Jim Williams.
Same 2 teams.
Leicester and Brumbies.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yes.
But
It
he
is.
didn't play. But he didn't play.
He did. You know who it is.
I know it is. I can't remember his name.
Your nickname.
Our nickname.
No, different one. The one that you got called as you walked off the quarter final.
That's a different
who else
name
is
altogether.
called Rodney Trotter?
Rod.
Rodney Sewell. No, Rodney.
Rod
Rod Cafe. Oh, Cafe, the tugboat.
Kafer. Rod Kafer. Brumbies 01, Leicester 02. Complete the sequence of EPCR Players of the Year. And you'll get it. 2013, Johnny Wilkinson for Toulon. 2014, Stefan Armitage of
Toulon.
Toulon. 2015,
Gitto.
no,
Mitchell.
there's a theme. Wilkinson, Armitage.
Toulon won it in 15.
Yeah,
no.
he was number 8. Number
In 2015, Toulon won it again.
Number 8 for
Englishman abroad.
Englishman abroad. It wasn't Dylan. It wasn't.
You would have played with him.
Nick Bendenon.
Very good.
Nick Bendenon.
Oh, Best
Yeah.
quote ever. We were at Claremont because he played at
Oh,
Claremont.
yes,
This is just.
I remember that.
Because we were talking. It's like, how are you loving it down here? Oh, I'm loving it. I'm talking French, and he goes, things like liberté, égalité. And he couldn't remember the third one. The whole, it's like
his
you can't
tricolor
come out with
forfeit
that.
let him
Came out
down.
with the third word in the tricolor.
Yeah.
Bendy.
How good was he?
Well, that year, outstanding. A lovely bloke, a fantastic teammate to have. With a smile on his face, just a positive shine of positive energy. No Rocky Helson maybe in the way that he played, but 2014, 2015,
Where's he skills coach now? Bayonne.
he is skills coach at Bayonne,
he?
correct? Yeah.
Okay, here's another question. How many players available for selection this weekend can you name whose dads also played in the Champions Cup? We've got 7. If you can get 3, we'll move swiftly on.
No, he's out.
Penno's, they're available.
Ntamak.
Yeah, Ntamak,
Ruma.
Penno. Ruma, very good.
Brennan.
Yeah. Brennan,
Yeah.
very good. Two Englishmen
From the teams playing.
from the teams playing. 1 Northampton, 1 Quins.
Oh, Merley.
No.
His dad-
his
He
dad
played
played?
high level, but obviously not.
Not
Michael
Champions
Liner?
Cup. Liner and
Not-
Michael and Lewis Liner,
Yeah.
Northampton, wing.
Oh, but Slytone.
John and Ollie Slightholme. And the curveball, I'm not sure he was going to be selected, was Kenny and Ruben Logan for Northampton. 112 Frenchmen, you've actually already answered this already. 112 Frenchmen have won the Champions Cup, more than any other nation. But can you name a nation that has 1 winner? And name the player. You've already said it. You played with one of them.
The Polish, but that's Makela.
Yeah.
Close.
There are 4.
Kakelak, that's his name.
You'd have played with another one.
Georgian? Attends.
You've already got one in your locker. You've played with one, and you played with one as well. 2009.
I know. Cook Islands.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Stan.
Stan Wright.
Oh, Stan, right.
Very
I
good.
remember
What a
that one.
character that
What was the
fella
name? What was the name of the prop who was on the bench? There was who barely played that season. Because I remember I was coached by John O'Gibbs, and he always had that quote. You know how you said the quote about your dad and stuff, never backward step. Is McDormand? Or
Yeah,
was
Ronnie McCormick.
McCormick.
Oh, a great
He always says,
character.
"Who's going to be McCormick this week?" Because it was a guy who never played, but came on for the one scrum to win the final and stuff. Who's going to be, the selfless guy? There's always going to be in the season. There's going to be a McDormand somewhere.
He was.
He always used to tell that.
Well, Ronnie McCormick was hilarious. He always used to go props don't come in. Props don't come into their prime until they're 34, Shag. Shag, I'm only coming to be prime, 34.
And then retired.
Sacked at 33. Your poll was?
Gregory Kakala.
Yeah, Gregory Kakla. Winston Stanley of Canada, who played with Leicester in 2001. And the other was Finau Maka, who was a rep for Toulouse, would have been. 2005.
He's
Tongan.
He's
Tongan.
Is he the only Tongan to have won the Champions Cup?
Yeah, I
Is
believe
he?
so. Unless producer Tom has failed in his due diligence and research. Here's one for the Norses. In 2007, who made their first start for the club in the Champions Cup final and went on to claim a winner's medal?
So Wasps,
Correct.
the prop,
Correct.
Hobson, no.
No.
Bald fella, Ollie, Higgins, no.
Tom.
Hobson, no. Tom is a prop.
Yep.
And he was dragged in. It was an injury crisis.
He went absolutely phenomenally well on the Thursday training session, and Phil
they
Vickery said he's got to start. So they did.
I know who it is, but I can't remember his name.
Tom French.
French.
This weekend, Cian Healy could become what?
The most capped player in European Cup history,
Overtaking
Ron O'Gara.
double win. There's 1,000 points up for grabs on this. Only one foreign or non-European player has ever won the EPCR Player of the Year. Who is it?
Issa Nasiba.
No.
One foreign or non-European player
Yeah.
has won the ECPR Player of the Year.
EPCR. I've been amazing at it. If you
Yeah.
get it. 2018. He won the Pro 12 with Glasgow, but he got the
Nakarawa.
Very good.
Leonie Nakarawa.
Leonie Nakarawa. Do you remember how good he was?
Yeah.
Second row.
Yeah. Freak. Yeah.
Absolute
Absolutely,
basketballer.
Yeah, he was incredible. He never went died with the ball. He
No.
offloaded every
No.
single time.
I'll never forget,
It's unbelievable.
How many arms has he got?
yeah, I'll never forget that. I can't remember if you did that game when Glasgow beat Munster in the Pro 12 final, and Nakarawa played like a Harlem Globetrotter in a fight. Just absolutely over the top, out the back.
You couldn't stop him off because he was 11 foot tall.
Exactly, he was 11 foot tall. And then in the post-match interview, Greg Townsend said the only thing I asked him to do today was stick to the nuts and bolts. I don't want any offloads at all. And the guy played like Jordan. Well done, Team Mensa. I'll give you full marks. And well done if you're playing along at home as well. I quite enjoyed that. That was our Continental Tyres quiz of the week. This weekend, the winners will be... And what's lovely about...
What's the Challenge Cup semis, by the way?
Gloucester Benetton.
Clermont Sharks.
Where's the Gloucester game?
At Gloucester.
Benetton win that, don't they?
At Gloucester. Ooh, so we got a Benetton. Who wins Clermont Sharks? Crikey.
Clermont.
A Benetton Sharks final in North London's going to test the marketeers.
I hope they take it very seriously. They had to get themselves out of a hole by beating Stade at home on Saturday. Otherwise, they would have been almost in a relegation zone. Sometimes they're not flying.
Yeah.
But they had a great game. I hope they take it seriously, and I hope they beat the Sharks. Yeah.
Again, impossible question to answer in reality because who knows what team the Sharks will send.
Yes.
So if they send
they send everyone, they have a hell of a team.
But they're 80 minutes from a cup final. Surely you can't
They can save
abandon
their
ship
season.
at this point.
Because they've had
And the only reason I went
season
Benetton,
too.
I watched Exeter win pretty comfortably.
I wonder if Gloucester had an eye on
Against
this weekend, though.
Yeah, okay, I get that. I get it,
Gloucester
but Benetton it's the Italian
They're
team
good
plan,
team.
right?
Yeah. Okay, good luck to those in the Challenge Cup final. The winner of the Champions Cup semi-finals will be Toulouse Quins.
Toulouse. I see them beating them convincingly, dominating the forwards, not letting Quins play. Romain Tamac will kick around in the corner. They will learn the lesson that Bordeaux displayed for them.
Yeah.
And I believe they will handle it like big boys.
Okay.
I know you don't want consensus here. It doesn't make for great podcasting, but I agree. I think there's two relatively comfortable wins, and then you've got an aristocratic final.
Okay.
Slightly awkward because I backed Toulouse to win the tournament before it started.
Did you say 5-1?
Yeah, but before the tournament started.
Yeah. I still think that's quite juicy.
When was the last time they won the European Cup?
A couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
La Rochelle at Twickenham.
There was a thought that Dupont was playing sevens and wouldn't be involved. Anyway, and so I hate to back it. I think Quins will make it competitive.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for form and fitness and location, then you'd be a pretty wild gambler to pick either of the English teams.
Well done, gents. A fantastic weekend in the Investec Champions Cup coming up with the semi-finals. Enjoy all of that on your telly box. Before we go, a few little bits for you. We've been sent a message by Oswald Street RFC, and it's some sad news. If you can help, we'd love to offer our support. Perhaps one or two who will join the party as well. Their under-15s captain Hugh has very sadly been diagnosed with a brain tumour a few weeks ago. He's been rushed into Birmingham Children's Hospital, and following a lengthy operation, the surgeons were happy with the results, but now he begins the long road of recovery. On the back of this, his teammate and his coach Stu wanted to help Hugh and his family, and they've set up a GoFundMe page. The money will be used to help the family having to travel and to stay in hotels in Birmingham for his homeschooling. If you'd like to get involved and to support Hugh, the website is gofundme.com/F/Hugh-fund. So if that is something that touches you, or you know other people who've been affected and you'd like to support Hugh, please do go and visit that link, and we wish you obviously the very, very best with your recovery. One other line this week, and I wanted to send my thoughts to Battersea Ironsides, who've had a really tough few weeks with one of their coaches who has recently passed away. Neil MacDonald was a hugely popular figure at the club, a great coach and a huge role model for the young lads, and essential to the age group rugby, promoting the love of the great game of ours. We were actually at the Waterfall Cup final on Sunday with Richmond, and Battersea Ironsides were in the final. Neil's boy was playing in that. He had his brother and his mum there watching as spectators as well. We send all our very best wishes to the family and to the club as well. What is obviously a very, very difficult time. So thoughts with all of the MacDonald family and Battersea Ironsides. That is it for this week. Gents, thank you very much indeed. You've certainly given us enough to clip up and put out when it all goes horribly wrong. Quins
Is
and
anyone
Saints
going
through.
to the game? Either of them?
I'm going. My brother's stag is on Saturday. So
Is it?
What are you dressing up as?
What is that involving? Why didn't we get to that earlier? What is no
Very
classified
tame.
information?
Very
Is it?
tame, yeah.
The twinkle in the eye tells me it's not going to be a quiet weekend. Or was that tears? I don't know. At this age, it could be either.
Panic
Yeah,
sweat.
panic.
Are
I can see.
you going to Toulouse?
Yeah.
Wow. Working or just
Working.
Working.
Yeah, I'll be at the Stud on Saturday, and then going to Toulouse on Sunday for the
Yeah.
stadium.
Brilliant.
Slight difference.
feedback on your yellow gloves?
I love them.
Strong. Oh, I love them.
Love them.
Yeah.
I mean, have they got the build?
Have they got their own Instagram channel yet?
They have their own account.
Do they really?
Yeah, they're alive.
Yes, quite literally.
I am pushing it. I mean, the other day, Principality, the roof was closed, so we're technically inside, still trying to win awareness, just to wind up
Is
all
it
the
a glove
haters.
sponsorship or is it just
Zero free gloves. I've tagged the shit out of that brand
what
everywhere.
brand is it?
I can't even remember now. It's probably Hestra.
Oh,
That's
beautiful. I've
the
got ski
skiing
gloves.
ones. Yeah,
Oh,
skiing ones.
I went to North Pole in those. Proper decent ones.
Zero discounts. Nothing. It's a disgrace.
Well, now after this, surely.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Will you be wearing Hestra next time you're on the pod?
Is it Helstra with an L?
Don't think so.
Good. This is
I've
unraveling.
probably got the knockoff ones from Primark.
Sergio
No wonder my hands
Giorgini.
got cold at the North Pole. They had their own gloves.
Good. Right, let's wrap this up before the whole lot goes in the bin. Thank you very much to you guys. Very nice to see you. As always, we have been the good, the bad, and the rugby in partnership with our very good friends at Continental Tyres. Stats and facts provided by Oval Insights. We're a folding pocket production. This episode was produced by Tom Edwards. Enjoy all of the Investec Champions Cup rugby this weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.